question is...
Really quickly, just on the Fed cutting. It's a very Wall Street Journal-y question, but the Fed cut the interest rate today by a 0.5 percentage point. Going to alleviate inflation for a lot of people, and so if you have any reaction to that, we'd love it.
Well, look, my reaction is... My reaction is a 0.5 point is nothing compared to what American families have been dealing with for the last 3 years.
Make America great again. Unless you're talking about Americans' lives, then MAGA wants no part of it. They'd rather make this guy happy than expect their country to work for them.
Sir, what's your reaction to the Fed cutting interest rates today?
I guess it shows the economy is very bad to cut it by that much. Assuming they're not just playing politics, the economy would be very bad, or they're playing politics, one or the other. But it was a big cut.
He guesses that it shows the economy is very bad, or the guy that he elevated to chairman of the Fed is playing politics. As usual, sounds like he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He could listen to Jerome Powell's reasoning, but that wouldn't be playing politics the way he wants to.
We have a dual mandate, and I think you can take this whole action as take a step back. What have we been trying to achieve? We're trying to achieve a situation where we restore price stability without the kind of painful increase in unemployment that has come sometimes with disinflation. That's what we're trying to do. And I think you can take today's action as a sign of our strong commitment to achieve that goal.
It makes sense that Trump thinks this could be a political move because when he was in office, he expected Powell to lower rates simply to benefit the president. That attitude aligns with his authoritarian expectations to control every aspect of American life. He was unashamed about declaring it.
Raise the rates to the level that he raised them.
Well, he said he's not going to get pushed around by political. He said, he basically suggested yesterday, I'm not going to get pushed around.
He's trying to prove how tough he is because he's not going to get pushed around.
Yeah.
He's a guy, nobody ever heard of him before, and now I made him, and he wants to show how tough he is. Okay, let him show how tough he is. He's not doing a good job.
Look,
okay,
I think the media got it wrong the other day when they basically said you wanted to demote him. I know you didn't say that. You were answering a question, but you're suggesting now
that I have the right to demote him. I have the right to fire him.
Okay, pause for a second. Take it in that he claimed he made Jerome Powell, so he expects complete fealty to his own interests in return. Is this a mob movie?
Plus, we have a gentleman that likes raising interest rates in the Fed. We have a gentleman that loves quantitative tightening in the Fed. We have a gentleman that likes a very strong dollar in the Fed. So with all of those things, and we want a strong dollar, but let's be reasonable. You understand that.
He openly told the country that he's against a strong dollar. We don't stop to recognize how much he hates this country. But let's let him keep cooking.
We have a Fed that doesn't lower interest rates. We have a Fed that raises rates the day before a bond issue goes out, so we have to pay more money. You tell me about that thinking, okay? We should be entitled to have a fair playing field. They haven't listened to me, and we have people. It's more than just Jay Powell. We have people on the Fed that really weren't. They're not my people. But they certainly didn't listen to me because they made a big mistake. They raised interest rates far too fast.
If it doesn't make him look good, he's not on board. Not a half a thought about how his desire to have the Fed serve his political interests affects regular people. He just complains about all those economic problems at his rallies and press conferences to get voters mad and expects the entire government to act for him no matter the cost to its consumers. It's a dictatorial screed. Remember his tariff plan?
A tariff is a tax on a foreign country. That's the way it is, whether you like it or not. A lot of people like to say, oh, it's a tax on us. No. It's a tax on a foreign country. It's a tax on a country that's ripping us off and stealing our jobs. And it's a tax that doesn't affect our country. And you could see hundreds of billions of dollars of tariffs on other countries also. It's not a tax on the middle class. It's a tax on another country. If you look at McKinley, who was actually a great president, he made the country rich. It's probably the richest we ever were, relatively. But he taxed countries for coming in and taking our jobs, for bringing us their product, for taking away our factories because they would make it and come in. And he taxed them. It was called a tariff. And it's not a tax on people.
Trump's hero from the 1890s. President McKinley would later regret and take back his stance in favor of tariffs since its devastating effects on consumer prices eventually hurt him and his allies politically. But we don't even have to live in the turn of that century to recognize that Trump has no idea what the hell he's talking about.
There were a whole bunch of these studies, like from really respected people, different political leanings, that basically all found that the tariffs were paid either mostly or entirely by Americans. They were passed along to American businesses and or American consumers. Trump's explanation of what was going on, what would happen here, unsurprisingly, did not actually happen.
Reuters reports that Goldman says this. Goldman Sachs sees biggest boost to U.S. economy from Harris win, and that was one of their analysts yesterday.
On the other hand, the former president has a set of tariffs that are incredibly sweeping and the opposite of targeted. On 60% tariff on everything from China and 10% on all imports. Now, let's stop calling it a tariff. Let's call it a tax. It is a tax on consumer spending that will hit middle-class families and have exactly the opposite effect on inflation of everything we've talked about so far in this president's agenda. Even estimates by former members of the Trump team tell us that that will raise inflation.
So if economists and professionals that study this are shouting about how ridiculous and harmful Trump's economic policies are, it might be time to pay attention to their analysis rather than evidence-free declarations.
He said he's going to bring down inflation by signing an executive order directing every cabinet secretary and agency head to use every tool and authority at their disposal to defeat inflation, to bring down consumer prices rapidly. Oh, and we'll do it rapidly. What is that?
It's a guy that has no idea what he's talking about, again, being propped up by a lot of folks that are committed to supporting his interests in exchange for everyone else's.
How are you going to bring down the cost of food and groceries?
Good. Very good. Thank you. So we have to start always with energy. Always. I don't want to be boring about it, but there's no bigger subject. It covers everything. If you make donuts, if you make cars, whatever you make, energy is a big deal. And we're going to get that. It's my ambition to get your energy bill within 12 months down 50%. If I can do that, we've done a hell of a job. 5-0, not 15, 50. Interest rates are going to follow, and actually they're going to follow for another reason. The economy is now not good. And interest rates, you'll see they'll do the rate cut and all the political stuff tomorrow, I think. And, will he do a half a point? Will he do a quarter of a point? But the reason is because the economy is not good. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do it. But we're going to get interest rates down, and we got to work with our farmers. Our farmers are being decimated right now. They're being absolutely decimated.
No actionable plan in sight there. Just his ambition to get your energy bills down and an empty promise that interest rates will then follow. No details as to why they'll follow or what types of policies he'll push to create an environment for it to happen. We keep hearing about how more Americans trust Donald Trump on the economy than VP Harris. Okay, fine. But what exactly is everyone's trust based on? He and JD connect their ideas that economists regularly call detrimental to their own clownish campaigns against powerless people because their identity is built off of hate. So ask yourself how this self-admitted fake story about Haitian immigrants in Ohio that they're basing their entire campaign off of relates to grocery prices and mortgage rates coming down. Find out why. See if you can see it.
If I have to, create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dan. Kamala Harris's open border, Kristen, has led to skyrocketing housing costs in Springfield, rising rates of crime, rising rates of communicable diseases. They have dropped 20,000 immigrants into a town of 40,000, and it's caused a host of social problems. And we should be talking about why Kamala Harris has done this to this small town.